Some very few words about what a noise terrain is at first. If you are not interested in this tiny little bit of information about how worlds collide, then simply skip the next minute or two. We all know the kind of noise that we use, for example, to feed our sample and hold modules. White noise, pink noise, brown noise sometimes, and so on, all generate random numbers which are independent from each other. They might be filtered, mathematically filtered, to emphasize higher or, on the contrary, low-end frequencies. Therefore, these names comparing noise with colors, but two consecutive values don't depend on each other. None is derived from its predecessor in any way. In those noise terrains, it's different. Here the random values have a certain structure, not necessarily a linear one. Two consecutive numbers are somewhat bound to each other. They follow a kind of blurred but general direction. They are not that far away from each other. But this direction itself can change over time, can wind itself to and fro, can bend, can change its sonic character. We are talking of music and sound anyway, aren't we? Okay, this direction can, and will in most cases, be determined by another, a higher or blurred but general direction, and so on. And then it's only a question of routine to transfer these numbers into something audible, like we do in our common sample and hold VCO chains, or into something visible, into a visible representation of this kind of tamed noise. And doing both, generating CV as well as something graphical from these tamed noise numbers, provides us with a more than nice and very helpful instrument which lets us sense how something will approximately sound at a certain point on the optical representation without knowing it exactly, though. I'm not going to bother you with the mathematics behind these things. In case you're interested in maths, you might search for keywords like Perlin noise or making maps with noise and so on. All right, time for something audible now. It's all about walking through the landscape that we see here in the main window of the module. And to come to a first and rather basic understanding still, it might be helpful for you to understand this white circle as a kind of playhead of a recorder that moves along the circle across the terrain here in audio rate. Each of the different colored blocks here represents a certain set of sound parameters, so that the playhead here in our example moves over 8 different sound parameters here in the patch, different sets of parameters here in the patch, and doing so in audio rate, this results in a certain pitch, which depends on how fast the playhead is moving along this circle, and a certain timbre, a certain sound, which depends on which and how many different blocks the playhead meets on its journey. By the way, do you have a YouTube channel of your own, or are you kind of active on social media? Well, then I have a special offer for you later in this video. We can change the number of different blocks the playhead walks over by zooming the terrain, the landscape in or out. Let me do so. But I want to hear something, so I take my headphones. All right. Or we can change the number of blocks. The white line, the journey of the playhead crosses by changing the granularity of the landscape, which is increasing or decreasing the number of different blocks, let's say per square meter or something like that. So let me do so here. Reducing the granularity, increasing the granularity. or we can make the circle itself, the journey, the circle itself smaller by using the level knobs, which is not only decreasing the length of the journey but also its shape. And important is, just to avoid a misunderstanding, important is the blocks which the white line crosses, not the content of the circle. It's like in real life. It's the girls you meet which make you feel happy or sad, and not the ones you only widely encircle. We can change the region the playhead walks around in by adding X and Y offset. Let's do so. Up and down, of course. And we can change the phase relation of the path. This here. And please notice the difference between the two level knobs, level potentiometers, and the two phase potentiometers. With level, the playhead's journey gets shorter or longer, okay, and sometimes, like now for example, changes its shape, but the circumference changes. And with phase, the length of the journey keeps or stays untouched, but its orientation in the landscape changes. And we can deform the shape of the white line, the shape of the root, making the playhead performing sharp, edgy turns, changing its direction, and so by using the shaper potentiometers. To say it in a less pictographic way, the module imposes phase distortion to the X part and to the Y part of the oscillator, which makes a certain question occur in the deepest deeps of our subconsciousness, a question that reads, is there something like a basic wave shape? A shape which would be there even if there were not any terrain or landscape? Well, I'm going to answer this question, and if it were only to soothe our subconsciousness, but not now. Be patient, and you will see and hear in some minutes. Before I continue, please have a look at this. It's my new online course, Production Secrets of Generative Music with Modular Synths, and it's useful not only for making generative music. You can get it from my website. The link is down in the description. And, well, thank you for visiting it. Another way to change the shape of the path is changing the ratio. Here is the ratio knob. The ratio between the X part and the Y part of the oscillator. And this is, let's say, to express it more accurately, the ratio between the X oscillator and the Y oscillator, because there are indeed these two oscillators at work under the hood. And to those of you who might be thinking, hey, it's the same as when using the shaper potentiometer, I say, no, it is not at all. Some of the shapes that we get with the shaper potentiometer are quite similar to those we get when changing the ratio, similar but not identical. But when changing the ratio parameter, we can generate shapes which are more complex, far more complex than when we just use the shaper functionality. The examples that we have heard so far have one thing in common: they have a stable pitch, and therefore, a stable and definite pitch. Therefore, it makes sense to use this pitch modulation this pitch input jack to generate a bit of a melody here. So let's have a short look at the patch. The left sample and hold module modulates the pitch of the noise terrain oscillator through a quantizer here. Okay, and this left sample and hold module is rate modulated, is triggered by the right one, this one here. The audio output of the noise terrain oscillator is patched to a VCA, this amplifier, which is gate modulated by an ADSR module, and the gate signal for this ADSR module comes from the internal clock of this right sample and hold module, which runs a bit faster than the pitch modulating left sample and hold module does. A bit of reverb rounds it all up. By the way, the ranges, let's talk about the ranges. The octave range here reaches from -2 up to +6. Let me demonstrate this. Okay, let's go back to 2. And the fine tune reaches from -700 to +700 cents. All in all, an enormous pitch range. Yeah, indeed. Do you like walking? Well, I do, and I love it a lot. I live in a region of Bohemia with a beautiful nature. We have hills here, not too high, not too steep. We have wonderful wide plains with manifold vegetation, and we have large forests. And even if I usually walk the same routes, the landscape doesn't look the same all the time. In the morning, there's a different kind of light than at noon or than in the afternoon. And so it's with the noise terrain oscillator. The landscape can be lit by different suns. They can shine with different colors. There is no sun, nor a morning, nor a noon, but there are 3 bias potentiometers called red, green and blue, red, green and blue. Here I can adjust something like different lights on the landscape. The influence of each of these parameters is not always the same with all kinds of terrains. The adjusted path, the zoom adjustments and the granularity can change how strong the influence of these 3 color parameters is. Let me show this with all 3 available styles of landscapes here, which are called mode. So let's start with the block mode. We have been using this mode called boxes so far. So changing the red, green, blue, now the next style called shapes. You see there are different shapes in it here. That again. Green. Blue. And the last mode is waves. You can see why. So red, green, and blue. In the majority of my experiments, there has always been the red parameter which had the most remarkable effect, but sometimes it were also the other ones. And as I told you, it depends on the other adjustments as well, granularity, zoom and path. It's great and wonderful that you like my work. My ebooks, my videos, my courses, my productions. All right then, come and earn some money together with me. Simply join my affiliate program. It's really easy, it's simple, it's without any obligations for you, and it might be even fun for you. Read the details on my website and start earning money, and not even only little money. Just click the link down in the description to learn more about it. I'm looking forward to meeting you there. Cheers and peace.
There's a dice symbol below the mode switch here, and by clicking on it we can create a random terrain, a random landscape and the chosen mode. So now in boxes mode, shapes mode, and of course waves mode.
We can boost the output of the module using the drive potentiometer here. Let me do so. Simple. But it's of course important for rather silent sounds from time to time, just because of the need to increase the audio output. But even with sufficiently strong output signals, we can instrumentalize the drive function, because we can drive the sound into saturation, and this without completely destroying the sonic character, because there's an internal soft clipper applied to the drive functionality. Let me use another sound. Change the granularity and then drive. I'm going to show you black holes and freezing cold winters, both hidden in the noise terrain oscillator, in a minute or two, but I promised to soothe your subconsciousness a while ago. So let me show you the basic wave shapes of the module at first. The basic wave shapes, which are sine waves, which we can see and hear when we use the X and Y outputs. And when we compare the two sine waves and their phase relation with the resulting output when processed by the terrain, we start to understand the real goings on under the hood. So let me do so. So, and now let's change the phases. Just look at the oscilloscope and see how more or less peaks occur when I shift the phases of these two sine waves. And indeed, I'm shifting. Let's shift together. No, forget this. Okay. Let's have a look at this example here. I've zoomed in as much as possible and I've reduced the size of the circle a bit. The fictive playhead travels across two different regions now here, dark blue and lighter blue, two different blocks. Only two different blocks. The result is a square wave, as you see here. When I now move the circle so that it covers four regions, let me do so. Going up. So, a second square wave is overlaid over the first one, and changing the phase relation of the two basic sine waves changes the phase relation of the two resulting square waves. Let me do so. And diving deep into the engine of this module, I may well show you what the ratio parameter do. It tweaks the Y oscillator's wave, as we see here now. So the ratio parameter tweaks the Y oscillator's wave. You may not know it, but there's a strong relation, a link, a bond between Checkman and light. Yeah, this relation has been built in the deep, deep past, so that it has become a part of our genetic code. When light, a series of photons, crosses the event horizon and enters a black hole, this light will never ever be seen again, and the same happens to Checkman when they enter the pub. Okay. Well, there's even something like this in this light in black hole thing in the module we are talking about. The journey of the fictive playhead here around this circle becomes a journey of no return, of never be heard anymore, when it encompasses only one single block, only one single not changing constant landscape parameter. So let me move it around. Sorry, here. 2 blocks, and now only 1 block. And it doesn't depend on the block. You may have noticed this little switch next to the PM potentiometer, the switch with this cute little snowflake on top. And this switch is the gateway to a function of the noise terrain oscillator, which I personally like most, and I like it very much. Let me show you what I mean. When switching into freeze mode, let me do so in a while, the fictive playhead stops moving along its path, so you see it, bum. And the white line becomes a little white dot here, and the sound vanishes. Before I explain the mechanism further, let me tell you which curves you see here. So we have the X and Y direct outputs, the upper two. Then the main output is this curve here, and the last one is the sine wave coming from this audio rate oscillator, which is at the moment which is not linked or patched or anything to the noise terrain oscillator. What you see here is not the real time. The multi-oscilloscope freezes when no signal is coming in. So I can move this dot around, this dot here, manually with the level knob, for example, level X and level Y, and so on, with the offset as well as with the phase potentiometers and offset and to and fro, and even with the ratio I can do so, but no interesting result anyway. Things get more interesting when I patch the output of an LFO. I have one here to the PM knob, to the PM input jack, and increase the attached attenuator. Choose another shape. So, but, well, it's nice, but really not that exciting. Very interesting results I get when I use, instead of an LFO, an audio rate oscillator. Do I do so? By the way, what you hear is the mixture of all of these wave shapes. You see here, all of these are fed into the 6 input mixer, and from there it goes to the audio. All right. I use the sine wave here, and now look at these wonderful and fantastic really wave shapes I get, and the noise terrain oscillator changes into a powerful wave shaper. The basic oscillator's sine wave undergoes a couple of wave shaping processes, each of which of great sonic potential. So now I can change the timbre, the sounds of this wave shaping process using the in-between well-known parameters here. And now I can mess around with all the parameters, and in this batch here I use the main audio out of the module to feed the left stereo channel here, and the Y output to feed the right stereo channel through the spring reverb. And please notice that I pitch modulate the basic oscillator and not the noise terrain oscillator, which is not possible to pitch modulate in freeze mode. And well, let me jam around a bit. Well, that's all I wanted to say about the noise terrain oscillator. I'm sure you will meet this module more than only once again when you follow my videos or my works about sound design or about generative music, or visit my website from time to time to stay tuned in. And if you want to be absolutely sure not to miss a thing, just subscribe to my newsletter on the website. Okay, and well, hey, subscribe to my YouTube channel here as well. Hurry up and do so. Subscribe and hit the bell and share this video. Share it. Don't hesitate. Get going. Otherwise, you know already, Santa Claus won't bring you any presents at Christmas. Okay. Cheers and peace.